Did you know that there's a shrimp that creates something nearly as hot as the surface of the sun? With its claw? It's called a pistol shrimp. And on a completely different part of the same reef, an unrelated animal called a mantis shrimp accelerates with the force of a bullet and does the exact same thing. Different weapon, no shared ancestor, same impossible physics, neither of them should be physically possible. So the question is, what kind of problem forces the ocean to invent two completely separate solutions that both break the rules of physics to solve it? Now, it's safe to say that most people have at least heard of a mantis shrimp before, and I'd like to think the same about the pistol shrimp, but almost nobody knows what they actually have in common. And that's the part that makes this one of the strangest stories in the ocean. The easy assumption is that these two animals must be close relatives. They're both small. They both live on reefs, and they both wield weapons that seem absurdly overpowered for their size. Most fascinating of all, they both produce cavitation bubbles that briefly hit temperatures similar to the surface of the sun. But they aren't related at all. The pistol shrimp belongs to a group called Alphidae, a family of snapping crustaceans that split off in its own evolutionary direction tens of millions of years ago. Despite the name, the mantis shrimp isn't actually a shrimp at all. It belongs to an entirely separate order called Stomatopoda, and believe it or not, the mantis shrimp lineage is actually older than trees. With that said, these two animals are about as closely related as a shark and a dolphin, and yet they both ended up with weapons that do the same physically impossible thing. To understand why, you first need to understand the problem they were both trying to solve. Because the ocean has a physics problem that land animals never have to deal with, and it's completely shaped everything that lives in it. Water is about 800 times denser than air. That sounds like a statistic, but you've actually felt it. Try throwing a real punch underwater sometime. What feels powerful in air becomes a slow push the moment you're submerged. The water absorbs the force before it can go anywhere. For almost every animal in the ocean, moving an appendage fast enough to do real damage is a physical impossibility. The environment simply won't allow it. Most ocean predators worked around this by evolving completely different strategies. Sharks use razor-edged teeth and the momentum of their whole body. Anglerfish use a lure. Octopuses use suction and camouflage. None of them solved the speed problem. They just accepted it and found another way around it. The pistol shrimp and the mantis shrimp both decided to solve it directly, and the way they each solved it is where things get a little weird. The pistol shrimp's weapon is its claw. One side of its body carries a normal claw for everyday scavenging. The other side carries something massively enlarged, almost half the size of its entire body, and when that claw snaps shut, it moves fast enough to create something called a cavitation bubble. The water can't move out of the way in time, so a pocket of near vacuum forms in the wake of the closing claw. That pocket collapses almost instantly, and when it collapses, it releases a shock wave, a burst of light, and a superheated flash that briefly reaches temperatures of around 8,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is crazy because it's nearly as hot as the surface of the sun. The snap itself travels at around 60 miles per hour. The sound it produces hits around 218 decibels. To put that in context, a jet engine at full throttle is around 140 decibels. A gunshot is around 160. The pistol shrimp is louder than both, and it's the size of your index finger. Crazy, right? And the prey doesn't even need to be hit by the claw. The shockwave from the collapsing bubble stuns or kills small fish and invertebrates outright. The pistol shrimp fires a weapon made entirely of physics. But the pistol shrimp's story gets even weirder when you look at how it actually lives. Most of these animals spend their lives in burrows, sharing them with nearly blind goby fish in one of the ocean's strangest partnerships. The pistol shrimp digs and maintains the burrow. The goby sits at the entrance, using its sharp eyesight to watch for predators, kind of like a guard on duty. In an unbelievable act of alarm, when the goby senses danger, it twitches its tail in a way that the pistol shrimp is able to feel the vibration through its antenna and retreats underground instantly. The goby plays top flight security and gets free housing, and the shrimp gets a security system. A perfect partnership. They've been running this arrangement for millions of years. two completely different animals, a nearly blind crustacean that generates a superheated flash with its claw, and a fish that can't protect itself, figured out that together they're actually fine, which is honestly more than a lot of species manage. One of them solved violence by briefly creating the conditions inside a star. It just also happens to have a roommate. And then there's the part nobody talks about. The mantis shrimp does almost exactly the same thing with its weapon, but it evolved that weapon completely independently, from completely different anatomy, and took the design in a totally different direction. Instead of a snapping claw, the mantis shrimp uses a club, a dense mineralized appendage that stores energy like a compressed spring. The club is held back by a latch in the exoskeleton. When the latch releases, the club accelerates to over 50 miles per hour in less than 3 milliseconds, with acceleration comparable to a bullet leaving a gun barrel. And just like the pistol shrimp, that speed is enough to create a cavitation bubble that collapses into a superheated flash. The force delivered is around 1,500 newtons. An elite heavyweight boxer also punches at around 1,500 newtons. The difference is the boxer weighs 200 pounds. The mantis shrimp is a few inches long. The pressure per square inch from its club is extraordinary. It can crack crab shells, shatter snail armor, and break aquarium glass. Owners of home reef tanks have come downstairs to find expensive fish missing and no explanation until they spotted a mantis shrimp they'd accidentally imported in a piece of live rock sitting in the gravel, completely unbothered. That's a real thing that happens regularly. Reef tank owners have a whole warning system for it. But here's what makes the mantis shrimp's design even more remarkable. By Newton's third law, if the club delivers that much force to a target, the club should receive the same force in return. It should shatter itself on impact. Well, it doesn't. And the reason why is something scientists are now actively trying to replicate in bulletproof armor. A shrimp solved a materials engineering problem that humans are still working on. That's not great for our ego, but here we are. The club is built using what's called a Bulligan structure. Layers of chitin fibers stacked in a rotating helical pattern, each layer slightly offset from the one below it. When force hits this structure, it doesn't concentrate at one point. It spirals outward through the layers, dispersing across the entire material before it can cause a fracture. The same architecture is now being studied for use in aircraft fuselages, helmets, and spacecraft components. Crazy to know that a shrimp invented it 400 million years ago. And then there are the eyes. You've probably heard that mantis shrimp can see more colors than humans. Humans have 3 types of color receptors. Mantis shrimp have between 12 and 16. And I know what you're thinking, because everyone assumes the same thing, that they must see some impossible rainbow we can't even conceive of. But that's not actually what's happening, it's weirder. Those receptors don't give them a richer visual experience, they give them speed. Each receptor is tuned to a specific wavelength, so recognition is instant. No cross-referencing, no processing delay. The mantis shrimp sees something and already knows what it is. Essentially, it's less like seeing more colors and more like having a biological barcode scanner built into your face. They also see circularly polarized light, which barely any other animal can detect and move each eye independently, giving them depth perception in multiple directions at once. All of it built for the same reason as the club: speed. The mantis shrimp also had to figure out something the pistol shrimp never did. It's intensely territorial, which means it runs into other mantis shrimp constantly. If your weapon can punch through a crab shell, and your neighbor's weapon can also punch through a crab shell, every territorial dispute becomes mutually assured destruction. You'd think the species would have wiped itself out in infighting a long time ago. It didn't, because the mantis shrimp invented ritualized combat, which, when you think about the weapon involved, is genuinely impressive self-control. When 2 smashers meet over a contested burrow, they don't immediately start punching each other. Instead, they take turns. One shrimp coils its body and presents its tail, called the telson, to the other. The telson is armored with the same Bulligan structure as the club, built specifically to absorb impact. The challenger takes a swing at the armored tail. Then they switch. Back and forth, measured and deliberate, each shrimp testing the other's strength without either one going for a killing blow. At some point, one decides the other is stronger and retreats. The burrow changes hands peacefully, and it's a win-win since nobody dies. The mantis shrimp developed social restraint around a weapon capable of shattering glass, which is honestly more than some animals with far less dangerous equipment have managed. And then some species go even further. Certain smashers are monogamous, pairing with a single partner for many years. Some species for over a decade. They share a burrow, coordinate their hunting, and take turns guarding eggs. A creature whose first instinct when it encounters something new is to punch it at bullet speed also figured out long-term commitment and shared domestic responsibilities. It's kind of adorable. It's also extremely unexpected from an animal that briefly creates the conditions inside a star for a living. So now we have two completely unrelated animals from different branches of the crustacean family tree that independently evolved the same fundamental weapon system. Different anatomy, different mechanics. Same result, a cavitation bubble nearly as hot as the surface of the sun used to kill things on a coral reef. This is what biologists call convergent evolution, the same solution appearing in separate lineages because the problem is identical and the physics only allows a limited number of answers. You've seen it with dolphins and sharks, both torpedo-shaped because fast swimming through water demands it. You've also seen it with wings, with eyes, and with venom systems, but the pistol shrimp and mantis shrimp are one of the most extreme examples because the solution they converged on isn't just similar in concept, it's the same phenomenon, the same temperature, the same physics, arrived at through completely different routes. What's strange about this particular case is how specific the convergence is. Most examples of convergent evolution involve a general body shape or a broad strategy. Wings work in a lot of different forms. Torpedo bodies work with fins or flukes, but the cavitation bubble is a very precise physical event. It requires a very specific speed threshold, a very specific geometry, and a very specific set of conditions to produce. There's no approximate version of it. Either you hit the threshold and the bubble forms, or you don't and nothing happens. The fact that two completely separate animals both hit that exact threshold independently suggests the physics left almost no room for variation. There was basically one correct answer, and both of them found it. What the ocean essentially did was run the same experiment twice in isolation and get the same answer both times. And the answer is, if you need to hit something hard enough to matter in water, you don't hit it harder. You hit it fast enough to make the water itself do the damage. You use physics as the weapon instead of muscle. It took two completely separate lineages, millions of years of evolution to figure this out. Both of them got there. Neither of them got a Nobel Prize for it, which feels like an oversight. There are around 500 known species of mantis shrimp and over 600 species of pistol shrimp. They're not rare. They're not deep-sea anomalies hiding in some trench we've barely explored. They're on shallow reefs all over the world right now, creating superheated flashes with their claws, completely indifferent to how impossible that's supposed to be. You could snorkel over one today and never know it. Personally, I find that both impressive and a little concerning. The ocean didn't give these animals their weapons because it wanted to be dramatic. It gave them those weapons because the physics of water left almost no other options. And two animals, separated by hundreds of millions of years of evolutionary distance, both figured that out entirely on their own. That's either the most elegant thing evolution has ever done or the most unsettling. Probably both. Thanks for watching, and if you liked our video, please like and subscribe.